we're in the rocks, and we're going to do a haunted ghost tour through the rocks. Now, the rocks was the first community in Sydney, well, in Australia, and it was a convict town. So they had a gang called the Rocks Nest, and they did a lot of crazy stuff in that area. So we're going to hear a lot about all the haunted activity there. At the Suez Canal area, it used to be where they would drop a lot of the sewer. The rich would live a little bit further uphill. The sewer would come down that street, so their nickname is Sewer Canal. But during that time, there was a lot of crime and other activities there that would cause death, and they've had paranormal activities spotted there. Now at the Russell Hotel, if you go to room number 8, they've experienced a lot of paranormal activity. They continuously have the figure of a male dressed in a disheveled sailor suit with their arms outreached like they're going to choke that person. And then right as they get ready to go, it disappears. Now, during that time and in that area, the local gang would work with prostitutes. Prostitutes would bring the unsuspecting sailors back to their rooms for a night of pleasure, just to be lured down an alley for the gang members to cut the sailors' Achilles tendons, rendering them immobile, and then they would be beaten pretty much often to death, and then robbed, and then just left in the streets. So there's a lot of speculation that the Russell Hotel in room number 8 was something similar like this had happened. So you can stay at the Russell Hotel and request room 8, or you can go to the Russell Hotel and not request room 8. The staff will know what you're talking about. Unsure what happened behind door number 64. There's just a lot of speculation that it was very tragic. They brought in a couple mediums, 3 different to be exact, and none of the 3 would pass the threshold of door 64. They can't tell what happened, but they have a sense of a lot of blood in that doorway. Now, we were shown a picture that somebody had taken there of their daughter posing by the door, and you can see a shadowy figure overlooking that girl's shoulder. So it's pretty interesting what may have happened there. And it's always nice to have a firework display going off during your ghost tour. It just adds to some ambiance and makes it just even that much more fun. On June 9th, 1979 at Luna Park in Sydney, there was a roller coaster crash on a ride called the Ghost Ride. 6 kids and 1 adult were burnt to death. Some think it was a terrible accident, but some think it was a sacrifice to Murloc, who prefers children's sacrifices by fire. Now, Murloc is a man who wears a loincloth and has a bull's head. Now, shortly before going to Luna Park, a family of 4, 3 of whom were killed, 2 boys and the father, on the ride, they were in Circle Quay. And while at Circle Quay, the boys went to pose for a photo, and out of nowhere came a man dressed in a loincloth, wearing a bull's head, and stood right beside the boys and posed for a photo, then magically went back into the crowd, never to be seen or heard from again. Now, over the years, they've posted this picture on news and in newspapers asking if anybody happened to be that guy, and nobody came forward saying that they were him. So that adds fuel to the fire to believe that this accident wasn't an accident and was in fact a sacrifice to Murloc. Now, Observatory Hill is a place where they used to hold executions. So back in the day, people would come, they would bring picnic lunches, they would come out and eat a lunch while they watched the execution. So Observatory Hill has a lot of death history there. And if you look across the harbor, you can see Luna Park. And that's where that accident happened that we discussed earlier. In this picture where Heejin is sitting on a swing, we've seen 2 photos of this park that have a shadowy figure in it. One, it's standing behind a child that was posing for a picture in the exact same swing. And there casts no shadow, and there is nobody else in that area when the photo is taken. A second photo taken about 11 months later shows the same shadowy figure in the back of the park walking towards the exit. So that's pretty freaky. Now, other accounts come that swing will just randomly be swinging by itself with no wind and nobody around. That comes from neighbors and several of the different tour operators that go through that community. Now, the Hero of Waterloo, it is one of the most haunted bars or pubs around, and it kind of gives credence to that claim because they do their own 3.5-hour ghost tour and they never leave the pub. So a lot of the history around there is pretty dark. Even the owner of it, he had a lot of criminal ties and a short temper, and he was having an affair with a woman. And when his wife and a friend confronted him about it, he carried her all the way up to the top of the stairs that led her to the basement, and then he kicked her down. And when she got down to the bottom, she fell crooked on her neck and broke her neck and died. And it's said that she still stays there because at closing time, she would play the piano upstairs for her employees as a thank you for working. And today, they still have piano playing upstairs. They'll go put all the chairs up, close the piano down, come downstairs. They'll hear the chairs shuffling around. They go up and then hear piano music. They go upstairs, and all the chairs that they put up are all around the piano, and the piano is opened up. So they believe that she still stays there. Even people that live in the community that don't even know the story will say that they see a woman in old garb with her head at about a 45-degree angle walking down the street. Well, that would be consistent with if you broke your neck, the head being at a different angle. And there's a lot of other activity because they would take people during the days they needed soldiers and sailors and labor. They would take people, they would give them Mickeys, or today roofies, drug them, and then take them out the tunnels that go underneath this pub out to the wharf. And when the people would wake up, they'd be on a ship in the middle of the ocean, never to be seen or heard from again. So they believe a lot of the spirits in there are tied to that kind of activity as well. According to records, there's only a handful of people technically died while building this bridge. Well, stories say that there was over 100 slave labor type people that died, but they never had their deaths counted. One of the stories is that Three migrants were on a beam and they fell into one of the piers or the pylons that are holding up the bridge, and they couldn't get out. And the people above ground told them they would give them some food and find a way to get them out. Well, they couldn't think of a way to get them out because they didn't have anything to get them out. So they laced the food with sedatives, and once the guys went to sleep, they poured concrete in there and kind of buried them alive, if you will. So they've brought in a couple mediums at different times, and all of them have gone to the same pylon and said they can feel a sense of death at that pylon without any information about what happened in that area. Another death there, a guy fell off of there's a couple guys that were on a beam. They lost their balance and fell off. Two of the guys were able to grab ropes. A third guy grabbed a chain, and he got caught up in the chain around his wrist and around his leg. And when it finally came taut, it ripped his leg off and ripped his hand off. So then he fell a little further and his head hit a beam, decapitating him. There's another one, a guy that fell off of one of the high points of the bridge, fell straight into the water, and he fell at such a speed when they found his body, he was standing straight up with his legs into the dirt, into the harbor. He fell at that fast of a speed. So those are some of the more potent deaths that have happened there. But when they open up the bridge, they would have several suicides a week happen at that bridge for a while. And so they estimate that there's been probably over 1,000 deaths that have happened there at the harbor bridge. Now, here at the Sergeant Major's area, they have 7 houses, 7 Victorian-style houses together. And 2 of them, this one and the one to the left, have experienced the most activity. They'll hear the back door shut, footsteps, knocking on the front door, footsteps back to the back door, and then the door shut. Sometimes the radio will go on and off without anybody touching it. The volume will go up, the volume will go down. They brought in a couple of mediums into this area as well. They identified the name of the guy, and they said he's a prankster. He hates loud noise. So whenever there's loud noise, he just goes and makes louder noise. And then he just likes to play pranks on people. So they say he's a harmless ghost. He's just there. Now, the last stop of the tour was the Observer Hotel. There's a bar under there that is supposedly haunted. And the reason why is up on the 3rd floor, the owner of the bar accidentally shot his wife in the chest and she died. And through the court system, he only got 3 months in jail and was charged with manslaughter. And they believe that happened because he had a lot of ties to criminal activity, and they were able to pull some strings for him. But one time, an employee came in to open up, and there was 2 steaks and a bottle of red wine on the floor. And he went to the manager. He's like, "Hey, look, this isn't a good prank because it's wasting meat and stuff like that." And he's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" He's like, "That doesn't sound like anybody that here would do that." So he's like, "Well, if it really bothers you, let's just see who did it." So he pulled the security footage. Nobody around. The refrigerator door opens up. 2 steaks float out, go to the floor. Refrigerator door closes. A few minutes later, a bottle of red wine floats over to where the steaks are and gets put in between the 2 steaks. So they went to talk to the staff about it, and then when they went back to the security footage to show it, it had been erased. So there's only these 2 people that saw the footage of these 2 steaks and wine floating to the floor. So pretty creepy, but yeah, interesting. So what'd you think about the Haunted Ghost Tour?
It was great. I wish I was seeing ghosts.
Ghosts aren't real.
It could be.
It could be. Could be a figment of your imagination too. But it was a good tour. It was fun.
It might be real.
We learned a lot about the rocks and a lot of the history there, so that was pretty fun.
Yes.
So cool. Well, let's check it out.
Very informative.
Informative, yes.